What's up, guys? It's just a few months ago that I decided I was going to get an RX-8 and turn it into a track car, starting off with an LFX engine swap. Check it out. Alright, so as you can see, the engine swap is pretty much completed. There's still a few things I need to do, but that's because I've stripped out the entire wiring harness. I've removed things like the heater core and stuff like that that you normally wouldn't have in this particular engine swap that I've purchased here. Alright, so this video is going to be a little bit different because normally I break down every single install or removal or something step by step. We didn't have time to do that. This was the first customer car for Keisler Automation's new LFX swap kit for the RX-8. So we didn't have a lot of time to be able to knock this out. In fact, we chiseled out basically a weekend to do it, and we ended up knocking this out in one day. I mean, it was a long day, but we did it in one day. So this is definitely something that, you know, someone with a couple buddies can do, you know, in a weekend or over a few days, and not really stress about it, because they've nailed down every single part of this kit. I mean, they've worked on it for 2 years, and so they've been working on it for so long, and they're just getting ready to start doing sales of this kit, I believe. You'll have to check with them. I'll put their website and their Instagram information in the description, but you can contact them if you're interested in this kit. It allows you to take a street RX-8 with all your amenities: heated seats, air conditioning, heat, radio, traction control, ABS, all that stuff, and swap an LFX in it and keep all of those things. You don't have to get rid of any of that stuff. Mine's different because it's for a track. Hold on, there's a train going by. I'll pick this up in a second. Alright, so they've designed this kit where you can take your car and basically with a few buddies knock it out in just a few days, and you don't need any special tools, not anything that, you know, normal car guy wouldn't have laying around, and you definitely don't need a lift. Now, we used a lift, you know, because like I said, we were on a limited schedule, and we wanted to knock it out as quick as we could. That way, if we ran into any issues, we would have time to resolve them. But basically, they needed to figure out all the little things about the kit to make sure that their swap was ready for big time, ready to release to someone, and then be able to install it without any issues. So they're nailing down the processes of what to install first, and they wanted to make sure, you know, with this 06, you know, that there wasn't anything different with the 09 that they've developed on, and the I think they had an 04 and then another 04 or an 05 or something. So so now that they've had a few years that they can look over, and had a couple installs in-house, you know, this was really the first customer car that that they've dealt with. And so we took it up there, and there was 4 of us working on it, and I'm trying to film, I'm trying to you know, discuss all the little steps for you guys, anyone that's interested in installing this or interested in this kit and kind of wants a more in-depth view of what's involved with it. But going through so many batteries, and like I said, trying to knock this car out as quick as we could, so that if we ran into any headaches or issues, we could resolve them really quickly and still have time to be done that weekend so I could get the car back home here. So So there's footage. I'm going to show you some footage, and then I'm going to just kind of go in depth on some of these parts that are installed here. And if you've got any questions, you know, on any of this stuff, you know, just let me know. Hit me up in the comments, and you know, there may be things that you want a closer look at, and I can do a video on those specific things, you know, that you want to see. You know, I won't be able to show you the installs, but like I said, I mean, the kit that they're designing, they make it so easy, you know, and I'll show you in some of these pictures and videos, because you know, it's not like a piece of IKEA furniture or something like that where you get a box with a bag of fasteners and then a you know, installation or a build guide. Come on, train. You know, a build guide that says you're supposed to have 20 of these bolts and, you know, 6 of these nuts and this spacer and whatnot. This is a full kit. They've got all the mounts and everything labeled. Most of this stuff is billet aluminum. I mean, it's top-notch stuff, and you'll see it. But like in the machining, they'll put the front, passenger side, driver side, whatever, into the billet piece itself, and all the nuts and bolts and everything, even for the wiring harness pieces and everything, they're attached, you know, with zip ties. And so when you go to install that exact part, the bolt and the nut are in place, ready to go in. There's no confusion whatsoever. I mean, it's laid out exactly how you would want it if you'd never done the swap before. I mean, it makes it super easy. So like I said, there were 4 of us, and I took my car up there in the morning, and we finished this whole thing in one day. So it's just insane how well they've done with this kit. I mean, it's not like a tubular subframe with some mounts or some special exhaust pieces or something like that to help you with your swap. This is the swap. I mean, you just buy this kit, your drivetrain, your car, and swap it. You don't have to go find stuff, you know, missing from the kit. It's all there. Alright, so I'm just going to give you a quick rundown on some of the stuff that's involved with this kit, or what's included with this kit. I mean, it's really every single thing you need to take your car, pull out the Renesis motor and transmission and everything, and swap in all the LFX stuff. So they've got these extensions for your electronic steering, and that drops the steering down just a little bit. And then because of that, they've got these billet tie rod ends. They're basically a bump steer kit, and so that corrects the alignment from moving the steering rack down just a couple inches. There's one modification done to your brake lines. So this one brake line just needs to be modified, because otherwise the exhaust gets in the way. And then they have a special bracket for the ABS. And then this is a crazy exhaust setup. It's really hard to appreciate it without seeing it in person, but it's pretty insane. But then you've got a special slave cylinder. They tried using, or I'm sorry, a master cylinder for your clutch. They tried using the factory slave cylinder. I don't know why I keep saying slave cylinder. They tried using the factory master cylinder so they wouldn't have to do any modifications, but it just didn't move enough fluid for the Camaro clutch, so they had to upgrade it. This is your coolant reservoir. So that's one thing that if you have a street car, you may miss if you use your windshield washer nozzles very often. Now, you could go to, you know, a smaller tank if you wanted to for your windshield washer and put it to the side, or if you don't care to have the washer fluid, you know, then you wouldn't need to put another one. But this is your coolant reservoir, and then it comes all the way over here to this intake or water neck here. And then this is another thing right here. As you can see if it'll focus on that. Anyway, it says upper here and radiator, and that's basically how everything is in this kit. Like I said, it's just so in depth, and so instead of it, you know, you having to guess you know, what the hose is or anything like that. They're all labeled. So they 3D print these brackets here to hold the Camaro ECU, and then, like I said, they have a fuse block and everything here for all the Camaro electronics. The fuel lines, they've got adapters on this side that go to the Camaro high pressure line, or the low pressure line that goes over to the high pressure pump, and then it hooks down onto your factory fuel line, and it reuses the RX-8 fuel pump. Let's move on to the radiator. So the radiator, they have 3D printed brackets. Here we go. I can show you right here. They've got 3D printed brackets that move the radiator forward just a little bit, and so that makes room for the sway bar and the steering shaft that have been moved forward just a little bit to accommodate the little bit longer engine. They have this intake. This is all 3D printed, and it is, the inside diameter is exactly like OEM, so your mass airflow and everything reads 100% correctly, so there's no issues there. Let's see. Let's move on. Let me show you the differential cover. It's insane. So hopefully you can tell with this poor lighting, but the differential cover, which doubles as a mount to mount the Camaro differential into the stock RX-8 differential location, it's all one solid piece of billet, and then it's got polyurethane bushings that mount it up into place there. And then you've got custom axles which use the RX-8 outer and the Camaro inner CV joints, and like I said, the axle itself is completely custom. And then a drive shaft shop, completely custom aluminum CV drive shaft that runs right down the middle there. Alright, now here is one of my favorite pieces, and you really have to see it in person to appreciate it, but you know, if you're using a center console with a shift boot and all that stuff, you know, you're not going to be able to appreciate this. Luckily, because the inside of my car is going to be completely stripped and stay that way, I get to see this billet shifter the whole time. But you can see all the machining lines in this. Let me see if I can get the focus in here. But all the machining lines here in this completely CNC'd shifting assembly, it's just, it's crazy the attention to detail on this entire kit, but all the billet pieces just make it you know, that much better. Alright, so one more piece that I want to show you, and it's really hard to see, but basically right here you do one cut with a hole saw right in the firewall here on the passenger side, and they've got this 3D printed piece that sandwiches the wires together and allows you to run this big battery cable here that runs back to your trunk, and then this harness here. So this wire has your connections for the OBD2, I don't know why I can't say that today, your OBD2 and your check engine light. So they do supply a check engine light with it as well. That way, you know, if you've got to pass any kind of emissions or anything like that, like I do in my county, you know, that's something they include, so you can do that. And of course, if you ever have an issue with the engine, you'll have a light to show you. So anyway, that's you know, that's most of the little parts. Now, of course, there's a ton of other things that are involved with this kit. Those are the significant things. Like I said, they've handled the wiring harness. The entire engine wiring harness is in the kit. I mean, literally everything that you need is in the kit. It's incredible. And, you know, it really takes all the thinking out of it. So, you know, if you've got any questions, just let me know in the comments and I'll try and answer them as best as I can. And, you know, if there's something that you want to see more in depth, you know, I can make some more videos on some of the stuff specifically. Alright, so now that I've shown you some of the footage that we you know, that we took while installing all this stuff, let me go over what basically needs to be done to get it running. Now, if you had a normal road car and you took out, you know, a working engine or a non-working engine and threw this thing in, you could get going in no time. That's exactly what they set their kit up for. My car's a little different, obviously, because I've stripped every single thing out of it. So let me go over what I need to do so we can start this thing for the first time. Alright, first things first, and this is completely my fault. This has nothing to do with the swap, but see if we can see in there. Right here is, right there is a mount for the factory eccentric shaft sensor, or like a crankshaft sensor basically. And so they've designed in part of this kit where you attach the factory Mazda crankshaft sensor here, and then right here is your you know, your tone ring or reluctor wheel or whatever you want to call it, that's normally on the eccentric shaft on the rotary engine. And this is required in order to trick the Mazda computer into thinking that the rotary engine is still in there. And so that allows, you know, all your factory stuff to work, like your electronic steering and your ABS and your gauges and all that stuff. So so I found my tone ring, but for some reason my E-shaft sensor was not with it. So that's missing, and I've had to order one. So once that comes in, I'll be placing that in there. Another piece that I've got to take care of is right here. Normally your heater core would be right there, and you would just hook your heater lines into it, but I have pulled that out. So what I need to do is loop that those heater lines together so I don't have a massive leak of coolant once I turn the engine on. So I've got to take care of that. Another thing, normally you would have, and I already discussed this in the engine video that I did, but right here down to over here on the valve cover, there is normally a you know, a vacuum line, a hard vacuum line. I've cut the ends of it off so I can reuse these, but we're going to be mounting a catch can here in the next video, and that'll close that off. And then the only other thing that I've got to do is throw the wiring back in here once it's completed. I'm almost done with that. A lot of wires, you know, I'm just basically getting rid of everything that I don't need to just clean things up and to, of course, reduce weight. So this is the Camaro Computer, and this is the fuse block system. You know, I haven't even taken this off, but let me see. So that is the fuse setup for the whole Camaro system that they've swapped over, and they include, you know, this is a 3D printed bracket, and then you've got the Bussmann weather sealed relay and fuse system. So but this pulls power from the factory wiring harness, so that's what some of these cables are here. And so once I put the wiring harness back in here, we'll get that taken care of. And then one last thing is they relocate the battery to the trunk, but I'm throwing in a master cutoff switch on the dash, and so I haven't run the wire all the way to the back where the battery is, so I just need to throw in a master switch and then finish doing that wiring. But once those are completed, we'll get to crank this thing up and see how it sounds. Now obviously I'll need to throw an exhaust system on there as well, because as you could see in the video, it only goes back to the sides of the transmission. Alright guys, so that's the first engine swap video there. You know, like I said, that's basically you know, it's different than what I normally do, but it's all I could really do with the way that the day went that we were installing all this. It was just crazy chaotic. We were trying to do a bunch of stuff, and you know, and making sure that we got it done in a small amount of time. And so with camera batteries dying, memory cards filling up, and me trying to shuffle all that stuff while also you know, getting the engine swap done, and you know, trying to get information from them on the engine swap for you guys, you know, it was really chaotic. And you know, and so this is the footage that I got from it. But if there's anything that you want to see in depth, or if there's specific questions about this swap kit that you have in this car, or how some of these pieces work, just let me know. You know, we can go do a specific video on some of those things, or it may be as simple as answering it in the comments. So just leave a comment below. And now that we have this engine in here, there's so many more things that we can do. I was kind of waiting on a lot of the stuff until we got this engine swap done, because I needed to know, you know, measurements for cutting the hood, cutting the front. We're going to be moving the radiator a little bit forward. We've also got to start working on the cage and doing some of the other aerodynamic stuff that we're going to do, and then putting in the seats. But we're making progress. So if you want to keep watching this project, you know, make sure to subscribe. We've got some other projects that we're going to do too. This is just what we're focusing on right now. And if you like this video, if it was helpful, please give a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video.